Good evening, welcome to this edition of the Evening Review. My name is Jemima Beatrice, your host this evening. Now, as we all know, the topic of the basic income grant remains a relatively hot topic. It is relevant throughout the times, especially now that Namibia is seeing an economic downturn. We have in our studio tonight Tjipura Tjipura. He's a researcher with the Basic Income Grant by the Big Coalition to give us an overview of what they are currently busy with. Thank you for joining us, Tjipura.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Now, Tjipura, can you give us an idea of the specific actions that the Basic Income Grant movement has taken in the past year to advance this initiative?
So initially, what we have been busy with is, most importantly, is awareness, raising awareness on about the grant, what the grant is about, its benefits. Most importantly, also sharing insights on the pilot study that we have been that has been conducted in Oshivero. Just giving it as an example as to, if implemented in Namibia, what could possibly happen. And then also we have been doing, most importantly, also university outreaches, where we have societies in the various universities, across Namibia. Just telling students as well, on the grant, how it would benefit them as students, how it would impact their lives as well. And then we do various, town visits, like we were in Keetmanshoop in March, where, we shared insights on the BIG with the community, in their various languages. We informed them on its benefits, and we also heard from the community themselves, what they struggle with, how they struggle, and trying to assess, also in terms of our research, how as the BIG, how can we help and tackle those issues. And also because it's one of the things we use in terms of research as well, to see what situations are people facing, because one of the major issues were hunger, which is malnutrition, because it's not just in Omaheke where death rates have seen to increase, also across Namibia, because people simply don't have the finances to afford just basic food and all of those things. So in terms of awareness and in terms of allowing getting to share the BIG message to people, I believe also in terms of media itself, we have sort of like reached at least the minimum of where we wanted to be as today.
Can you tell me, are you talking about malnutrition? Yes, we know that it is becoming quite a concern right now. Are they, the information you're talking about, is that information that you have observed firsthand? Can you tell us about the increasing numbers of malnutrition that you've just mentioned? And what are the other issues that have come out during these engagements with public?
I think in terms of the observing, we have seen it firsthand. We have been there, and people have told us, look at my child, she's only 2 months old. But in terms of also, as much as a woman can breastfeed, if there are any complications in terms of her having to breastfeed her child, she will have to go to formulas, and she simply cannot afford these formulas, meaning that she has to feed this child whatever is available, be it the milk, be it the porridge. And also most of us who are members of the coalition also, growing up, we have seen these things. It's not just things that have started now. It's things that I've seen over the past 2-3 years, over the past 5 years. It's things we've been seeing in our communities as well. I think also that's one of the reasons why we have joined the movement, because we see what's going on the ground. And then in terms of other issues that we have observed as well, is things like alcohol abuse, where people simply just don't have hope, where people, due to the not in terms of like alcohol they could buy, because we have things like Tombo, because especially in Keetmanshoop, when we were doing the outreach, we've seen how many people sit at this particular shops where they sell this things, because we went there in the morning, and then I think after, like in the afternoon, we saw the same people sitting there. So those people sit there for the whole day just drinking, So because these people have simply just lost the hope, because things like poverty cause depression as well. And depression, in order for you to escape, you have to use some particular substance. If not drugs, then maybe the alcohol. So, and then also we have seen that, kids have dropped out of school as well, where simply parents cannot afford to take their kids to school. As much as, yes, education is free, it means that in order for the child to come from home to the free education, they need particular resources, which is now, the money to at least afford a school uniform, the money to have something to eat in the morning. Because if I don't have anything to eat in the morning, how will I be productive at school, in the class? And also, even though I eat in the morning, I come back home, I don't have anything to eat again. It's another problem. So these issues, we have experienced them firsthand. So something we read in books, something we experience firsthand, seeing these things.
So you're talking about Keetmans. Has there been other communities where you've also done extensive work?
Yes. Previously, before I joined, the coalition has visited, especially the Omitara. They have visited in Hobabas itself. So there has been other, visits in other towns. Yes.
So the report that you were referring to earlier is, from my understanding, it's a little older than 10 years now. How is it still relevant? Has there been any adjustments done to this report in the meantime?
In terms of its relevance, we have seen that in that time, things like malnutrition existed, which is what we are currently experiencing, in Namibia as a major concern. Poverty itself, because now we are at a 64%, of poverty rate in our country, have existed then as well. So it is very useful and relevant to use as a feasibility study, to see it as if we to implement the BIG, which was implemented of $100 in Oshivero at that time, what would the results be? Because poverty and school dropouts that have existed that time in Oshivero have decreased after, a period of time after the BIG has been implemented. After a year, we've seen, changes in terms of like kids going back to school, changes in terms of like people starting businesses, because now they have the financial capacity to actually be innovative and start businesses. Because till today, there's a bakery that has been started with the BIG that still stands today, showing its effectiveness, showing how nationally a BIG could affect the lives of individuals, how nationally the BIG could affect the economy itself. So it's at a social aspect as well as an economic aspect in terms of its impacts, in terms of its benefits, not just as to giving people money, but also empowering people in order for them to be economically active within our economy as well.
So tell me, you just said that you have, when you went Keetmans, you saw how people are drinking throughout the day, day on, day after. So what guarantee is there that when people have given complete hope that they would not use this money for drinking again?
We see, once again, we'll go back to the Oshivero pilot study. We see that also things like alcohol abuse, which led to gender-based violence as well within the homesteads, were existing at that time. But after the BIG was implemented, after people had other things to do, because people kind of don't have anything to do because of the lack of money. Because even I personally, as a person, if I don't have money to move around, if I don't have kept money, I'm just at home doing nothing. If I'm just at home doing nothing, also as a human being, you have a sense of lack of self-worth, which at the end also leads to depression, which at the end also, whatever I can get my hands onto, like in terms of like substance abuse, I could get. So if these people have the ability to, be active as individuals, and their dignity is amplified, because as much as we say that people might use this money to buy the alcohol, what proof is there that or like what study is there that when people get money they will just spend it on alcohol? Because it seems like a hearsay instead of like where proof is provided. Because if you look at the Tjipura pilot study, proof is provided that these people moved away from alcohol abuse to doing something else with their lives, and it's something also that we believe and know that will be done also in other communities and not just Oshivero itself if implemented nationally.
You were talking about how you've talked to young people, communities at school, universities. What has been the response from the youth in particular and the community members?
Community members, initially, they, like, every time we visit, they think, we are registering them for the grant. They're like, oh, let me sign up my name, and when can we start, getting the grant, or how do the application process work? So what we try is to sort of like make them understand that, no, we are fighting for its implementation. And the response we get in terms of that is the fact that, it's needed. It's the fact that people want this money. Some people, yes, say, why are we getting free money? Why don't we just work for it, right? And then it's a thing of like, people also don't understand its importance. That's why, number one, we educate them. Number two, we try to explain what is currently happening, because it's happening around them. They've gotten so used to it, to the fact that they don't see it as a problem. But when you explain to people that your human dignity is put to question, because someone cannot live, on just a slice of bread per day, or because we have seen instances where kids buy breadcrumbs for $1. A child cannot live on breadcrumbs per day, because this breadcrumb is mixed with sugar and the breadcrumbs. So it's also nutritiously, it's also not healthy for a child. So people, in terms of their responses, it's broad. Some people agree with the campaign. Some people are like, but why are we giving people free money? And also students, most importantly, also they try to understand as a student, how will this grant benefit me, right? Because most of them, instead of actually providing statements or saying something against it, they ask questions. How will it benefit me as a student, right? Because one of the things we struggle with as students is having pocket money, just money to move around, just money to allow us to, do certain things. Also, it's not just pocket money in terms of like playing around with the money, but pocket money in order for you to be able to afford the food. Because as a student, you need to eat a nutritious meal because you're going to school in the morning or you're going to class in the morning. So it's more of them asking questions than making statements, because it's something that they aren't familiar with. It's not like it was implemented before and it stopped. It's something that they always try to understand instead of like actually questioning in terms of being against it. Yeah, they're the minority that are against it, but there are also those who, the majority who ask, as to how would it benefit me, how would it benefit the next person, and all of that.
What is because usually many unemployed people depend on the pensioner, relatives, grandmothers or mothers. What is the feeling from the pensioners, in fact?
The pensioners, it's a relief, because I'll go back to Ketman's work. I spoke to a lady who was complaining about how she takes care of most of her children, like her children's children as well. The burden of the unemployed daughter is on her. The burden of the children of the unemployed daughter are as well on her. So she spoke about how, at least if each of them were getting 500 per month, it would lift the burden off her shoulder immensely. It would help her at least. It would at least allow her to assist where needed, assist where she could close the loopholes, because this is a person that also needs medical care. This is someone that needs to take care of themselves in terms of hygiene, but their first thought is my kids. She's the last person to think about herself, is what she was saying. So if implemented, this could help her, at least when needed, close the loopholes. At least the 500 they're getting would cater for them, and then if anything lacks in terms of whatever they need, she would close loopholes with her pension.
Yes.
Because it's not currently, it just ends at food. Also food, also just very little food, doesn't get to buy at least even electricity for like $20, maybe sometimes, some months, depending on how, things are. But she said if implemented, at least you could use the $500 for the one child to buy electricity, and then it could last them for a month at least.
We'll go for a quick break and then we'll be right back. We'll be back right now. Welcome back. Now, if you've just joined us, we have in studio Tjipura Tjipura. He's a researcher with the Basic Income Grant Coalition. He's talking to us about the work that they've done so far and conversations they're having with various stakeholders. Now, Tjipura, before we went on a break, we were talking about the appetite from the public. Now, you also having a conversation with political parties. What do you think that conversation would look like?
So we're expecting them to, first of all, tell us what their take is on the current situation, right? What they think has led us to where we are today, because we are at a 64% poverty rate, which is concerning for an upper middle income country, a country which has so many resources and minerals. And the level of inequality in our country, because we are the second most unequal country globally, following South Africa. And once again, it's concerning for a country with so many resources. So we want to understand from their side as political parties, according to what they've observed, as to what is the cause, what is actually the problem. Because before we try to find a solution, we need to understand the cause. And also to understand what they think should be done, what they suggest should be done in terms of, poverty, in terms of, most importantly, inequality in our country, because it's really concerning. And, inequality which leads to things like malnutrition, which is one of our greatest concerns right now, as much as drought has contributed to it. And then also because it's election year, right? We need to understand their position as political parties on what we face as a country, because they are there to help and, curb this situation. And we want to see and understand also on what their take is on the basic income grant. What other alternatives could they possibly suggest, if not the basic income grant? Because it's really important that as a nation, or as leaders, if you are against something or for something, you should have a particular reason, and you should have an alternative that would best, tackle what we are trying to tackle in the as the basic income grant. Because we are not saying it's the holistic solution. We are saying it's the stepping ground. It's a stepping stone towards, other policies or other, possible mechanisms that we could. Because the Namibia Tax Consortium that was formed in the administration of Tjipura Tjipura suggested that a basic income grant at that time, before even malnutrition and all of these things exacerbated, like today, they suggested that the basic income grant would be the best solution to tackling poverty in Namibia, and that's why the pilot study was formed. That's why Oshivero exists. The Tjipura pilot study exists today. It's because of that. So if they have seen a solution like that before, they should consider trying to implement something like that. And also, as political parties, once again, they should tell us as to if in power, what are you going to do? Because we have the right to know, especially the youth, because we take up majority of the population. We have the right to know, because as the youth, I fear about my future. As a politician, I need to understand what your position is if I'm going to vote you in power. So yeah, that's mainly the aim of the event we're going to have.
So tell me, what are the other key stakeholders and decision makers that your organization has engaged with to push this narrative and this initiative?
So we have engaged with other civil society organizations, like the Food and Nutrition Alliances of Namibia. We have engaged with, Tukna, other other civil society organizations who are also members of the coalition itself. So we're not having this battle alone. It's a unified battle. In terms of government agencies or institutions we have consulted with, obviously, which is the Ministry of Finance. We are still to wait on, face-to-face consultation, because we have submitted our research in terms of how a BIG could possibly be funded. We have submitted, a written document, with suggestions and, how much it's costing our country now to deal with poverty. We have provided those statistics to them, and we have provided how much it would cost us, which is less, to implement a BIG and to try to solve, those issues. We have consulted, international, the stakeholders as well, like the University of Stanford, who's also assisting us in terms of our research. So we are, trying wherever we can to consult, approaching the relevant
So for the benefit
stakeholders.
of our viewers that might be late to this debate and conversation, can you just share with us some of the statistics once again?
Yeah, so in terms of how much it costs government, because we see school dropouts, close to 20,000, children dropping out of school every year. We've calculated how much, we spend on each child. So per year we spend about close to $1 million, per child, just for this child to have the necessary, basic education that they need. Now, if this child happens to drop out, how much would it cost for government? Close to like above, 20 million of this, money is being wasted on these children. So we need to understand also, as a nation, are we willing to spend that much on dealing with on dealing with the aftermath, or we are willing to spend to solve and just take away the problem, or at least decrease the effects that the problem is causing upon us? And in terms of things like, let's say, the how much it would cost. So we have calculated that there are close to 250 Namibians who earn above 500 million in Namibia. So we are trying to see, because it's universal, we are trying to see how this money will be reimbursed within our coffers as government, that this person earning this much is able to give this $500 without even using it. So like it would definitely just go back to government itself. And we see how we lose about 10 billion of illicit funds from our mining sector, our extractive industries. So we are trying to see as how can government consult institutions like NAMRA, who we know also right now is trying. How can we see how we can get these funds back into our country, because these are our resources, right? And also again, also as a coalition, also we are trying to understand how we can sustainably fund this grant as well, through things like new tax systems like wealth tax, inheritance tax, and all of those, and see how we can use those things to fund a grant sustainably, and not just once off, but in the long run, how will we survive in funding this grant? Yes.
So in conclusion, can you just tell us, there's also talks, calls for a sovereign wealth fund to be introduced, and it has been on the cards for a very long time. So where does this leave the BIG conversation?
The BIG conversation comes in where we see how it will be funded. We can use the sovereign wealth fund to fund the BIG. We can use this to ensure that we implement the grant, because one of the counter arguments we get on the BIG is the fact that why we're giving it to everyone. We're giving it to everyone to reduce the costs, because when we have to now see, and someone has to come and prove to you that I'm poor, as government have to come prove to you that I'm struggling, because people have different,
Income levels.
Yes, income levels, and we have multidimensional poverty in Namibia, not just the poverty of hunger or the poverty of not having clothes, but people struggle in different ways. As much as I have a house, I might struggle in something else, and the 500 can cater for that. So it's less costly to test and bring in new institutions that will have to now see who qualifies, who does not qualify, the documentation, and all of those administration costs are just costly as well.
Thank you very much for joining us. We'll have you next time again.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.